actually ought to do is say an eye for everything. Like you touch a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, and we kill the head of the IRGC, we kill Khalibaf, we kill your entire leadership class. Again, we destroy South Pars and we destroy Kharb. One drone, and that's what happens. That is the way you win in the Middle East. By the way, that's the way you win generally.
So we're 6 months into the 3-week war, and it just keeps getting worse. The whole thing's turned into a complete disaster. And now Donald Trump's walked out his Treasury Secretary to let us all know we should be preparing for economic D-Day. Whatever the hell that means, which is kind of crazy. Like, can we get a Treasury Secretary who's interested in bringing up back our economy? Can we get a Treasury Secretary that's interested in the strength of the dollar? Can we get somebody who's not just like, to keep the comparison, some economic version of Dwight Eisenhower? Can we get something a little better, please? Let's get to the tape here of Secretary Bessent and his declaration of economic D-Day.
Teams from Treasury, State, and the U.S. military are now meeting with their global counterparts to tell them that the United States expects action. Every country has a defined timeline to shut down activities we have identified. If they do not take action, we will do so unilaterally through Treasury authorities. For example, every branch of Bank Melay must be shuttered and dark. And let me be clear, any entity that facilitates money laundering on behalf of Iran will be removed from the US dollar system. The clock just started ticking.
So, that's crazy. What a nuts thing to say. Any entity that's helping Iran launder their money is going to be kicked off the US dollar system. So what that means is we got these sanctions on Iran, and anybody that helps them get around those sanctions is going to be in big trouble. And this is just a threat right now. He's going to talk about that a little bit later. This isn't something he's implementing this moment because he's not talking about little countries. He's not saying that Lebanon is helping launder money for Iran. We're already at war with Lebanon by proxy. He's talking about China. He's talking possibly about India. He's talking about Russia. It's the big countries, the ones that he's afraid of. And we're going to, again, see another clip of the secretary here. And he's going to elaborate a little bit of a Freudian slip with him too. The whole thing's obviously a bluff, which is a crazy way. He's playing chicken with these other really big economies, and he's hoping that they're going to back down and they're going to stop helping Iran, that for some reason they're going to listen to us. These countries like India and China, they don't want the dollar to be really strong. They don't want us to be able to put sanctions on anybody we want and control countries via the dollar. So they have no real incentive to listen to Bessent. And then it's kind of like an allegory for this whole entire war, where we show our cards and show that we don't actually have the ability to defeat Iran. We don't have the willpower to do it. Economically, it's the same thing. We're weak. If we go after India or China and try and kick them off the dollar system, it's not going to work. They're going to end up being just fine. And it'll just expose us for the weaker empire that we've become. So it's not going to happen. Bessent's not going to follow through with this. And he exposes that in this next clip. And shout out to this reporter. We talk a lot of shit about how bad the media is because they absolutely deserve it. But he takes this first question.
You in the front.
You described this as an economic D-Day, but D-Day wasn't a threat of an invasion, and the U.S. didn't give a timeline to Germany. So why not impose the sanctions today?
And so right off, it's kind of a hilarious question because, yeah, the whole point of D-Day was it was a pretty serious operation going down. It was a pretty serious invasion we planned. Getting rid of the Nazi regime's hold on Europe was a pretty big task. And so Donald Trump, he's the marketing guy. He's going to play everything up as being really big. Everything's, the next World War II for us. But by them comparing, the Trump administration, by comparing D-Day to what we're doing in Iran, just kind of shows how ridiculous this whole thing is. And the reporter just makes this obvious comparison. He's like, hey, so if this is D-Day, why are we warning him? Why don't we just go do it if it's that serious? And then listen to Bessent's response, which is a great question because obviously it just shows how farcical the whole thing is, that nobody really believes this is going to be the next D-Day or fighting Iran's the next World War II.
We are giving everyone the opportunity to remedy bad behavior. Why would I want to blow up the global financial system?
So, okay. We're going to give the Nazi regime a chance to remedy their behavior because this is just that serious that it requires that level of D-Day. Gotcha. Okay. And then he says something even crazier right afterwards. He's like, why would I want to blow up the entire financial system? Like, oh yeah, that's what you're threatening, huh? To blow up the global financial system that we are on top of. That is like America's number one advantage in the world is we have the global reserve currency. It's the dollar. That's our strongest weapon. And Bessent's like, why would I blow that whole thing up? Like, yeah, no shit, buddy. That's kind of the whole question. Why would you blow the whole thing up? Let's keep listening to him.
Important to level set and give people a cure period, but they should know that that will move very quickly and that we are serious. Secondary sanctions are a very powerful tool, and we here at Treasury, this is Gene Lang, the acting undersecretary for terrorism finance, and in the terrorism finance department, and
okay, first of all, that's a hilarious title. You're the undersecretary of terrorism finance, which it can't be like counterterrorism finance. It can't be like for stopping terrorist financing. You have to be the undersecretary of terrorist financing. It's an interesting title. I kind of want that title.
at OFAC, the reason we are able to use secondary sanctions is because we do not take their use lightly. So we believe that a warning shot and a level set of expectations is appropriate. And if people do not want to meet our expectations, then we expect, and they should expect, that will leave the dollar system. Okay.
Yeah, it's a warning shot, just like D-Day was. Just a warning shot. No big deal. Totally accurate historical comparison. It's kind of funny though, like you could make this was one of the first things I thought. It was that like D-Day did have a lot of trickery and deception involved in it, like the Ghost Army where Patton's, marching around with a bunch of inflatable tanks, where they were setting up all this fake army on the east side of England, near Sussex. And that's where the invasion we were pretending was supposed to come from, when actually it was coming from the west side near Portsmouth. And like if Trump was some, like history buff, and you could see him coming out and being like, yeah, that's kind of the comparison I was going for. There's all this trickery to Operation Neptune, and that's really what I wanted. But, Trump's never opened a history book or anything like that. He's just the marketing guy. He's just going to blow the whole thing up and just say, oh yeah, this warning shot, like Secretary Bessent saying, it's just, that's like D-Day. That's totally like D-Day. It was just a warning shot. The Iranian regime, that's like us fighting the Nazis. This is our World War II. I'm the next greatest generation, blah, 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 blah. Whole thing's completely nuts, which just calls into question the whole reason we're fighting this war and Trump's incompetence with handling the entire war. Just so we can recap, the war goals so far, he announced right away we're going for regime change. That was when he killed the supreme leader. Still not regime change. The regime is still in place. The IRGC still runs Iran. He said we were going to remove all the enriched uranium. Hasn't happened. Iran says they're not going to give it up. They've also said that the bunker that it was being stored in got collapsed, so they couldn't remove it even if they wanted to, which is kind of like an interesting logistical misstep we made. Like we wanted to negotiate getting rid of the enriched uranium and then collapsed the building so they can't even negotiate to get it out of there. That was kind of stupid. It's like where, you know, you're being kidnapped and you shoot the driver going down the freeway, and now you're crashing going 80 miles an hour. Like you understand that that person didn't have your best interest at heart, but maybe shooting the person at the wheel was not the best idea. The Iranians were supposed to guarantee they would end their nuclear program. They've said they're not going to do that specifically. No more funding terrorism. They are definitely not stopping doing that. No ballistic missiles for the Iranians. That was one of Israel's biggest goals, because the Iranians could launch ballistic missiles and hit Israel. They've never had a ballistic missile program that could reach the United States. They weren't even attempting to get an intercontinental ballistic missile that could hit us. This was something that was purely what Israel wanted. All these are what Israel wanted, obviously. If they don't have an intercontinental ballistic missile, they can't deliver a nuke to the United States. So then why do we even care that, you know, they're enriching their uranium to 60%, which isn't enough to make a nuke anyways. And they had a fatwa against making nuclear weapons. They just weren't doing it. They were trying to negotiate the nukes away. But take all that at face value, those 6 goals, we haven't achieved a single one of them. There's no way we can spin this as a success. Oh, and then, sorry, I forgot to add, now one of the goals is opening the Strait of Hormuz, which wasn't closed to begin with. And people are saying, there's all sorts of fake news out there. Before the war started, 17 million barrels a day were flowing through the strait. Trump says it's up to 9 million now. That's him saying the strait's back open for business, which it's not. JP Morgan recently said it's actually more like 4 million barrels a day that are getting through there. So substantially less. That's why your gas prices are going up. And if you live here in California, like I do, it's because you have a communist governor like Gavin Newsom, who loves raising gas taxes in the middle of July and making sure we have to have special California blends and regulating the shit out of all of the refineries so that we can't have gas anywhere near as cheap as the rest of the country. But the war in Iran is not helping, especially if you live somewhere like Texas where you don't elect insane people. We're going to have some higher gas prices in the near, not just, I shouldn't say we're going to have higher gas prices in the near future. We're going to continue having high gas prices for the foreseeable future. So Bessent's going to make these threats. He's going to threaten to destroy the global economy. Like you said, he totally slips up. You can tell he's not used to answering these questions. As soon as somebody asks him, like, hey, why would you do this threat here? He says, well, I'm not going to follow through on it. It would just destroy the whole global financial system. Why the hell would I do that? Like, yeah, dude, it's kind of the point. A little bit of a slip there. The mask fell down. And then we cut the video off, but then he just like runs off the stage. He knows he just fucked everything up and said something he shouldn't have. And we've got nothing to gain by it anyways. Like, what are we going to destroy the dollar status as the global reserve currency over? Some guy in India or in China is laundering money for the Iranians? Like, okay, wonderful. I guess some businesses in Iran can be successful now, because that's really the point, is that we need to crush all industry in Iran or something, so that then theoretically the people could rise up and take over the regime with the guns they don't have, and the military that's not on their side, and the 100,000 IRGC members who are fanatics who support the regime that they would have to take down. None of that's happening. Of course, it's not going to happen. It never was going to happen. Maybe we'll arm the Kurds and then they can steal all the guns and make us look like idiots. Let's listen to Ben Shapiro. See what his take on this is. The completely unbiased take from American citizen Ben Shapiro. Totally not somebody with Israel's best interest at heart. So, and a real America first guy. Ben Shapiro.
I get why people are confused and upset. It feels like things are stalemated, that they're getting broader and more difficult. Why? Well, because what the American people want is victory. There's this bizarre notion in foreign policy that the American people...
And by the way, that's not even true. This war was the most unpopular war by public opinion at the start. People did not give a shit about victory or defeat. Victory was never even defined. Donald Trump never even attempted to tell us a reasonable view of victory. I already listed the things that he'd thrown out there. None of those were ever going to happen. So no, this is just a lie already. He's not. The American people are not just craving victory in Iran. We just want to go home.
Are deeply worried about the immediate cost of war to the enemy. That the American people, that we can't handle the ugliness of war for even a day. That every conflict has to be totally antiseptic. And here I'm not even talking about the American willingness to undergo casualties. No one in America wants American casualties. It's a tragedy and a horror. We do understand that war does come along with casualties, and we are willing to undergo those casualties in pursuit of an end and a victory for America. But as far as the idea that, for example, America, we can't hit Kharg Island because the Iranian people would then be deprived of oil resources. The American people are, I should say, not particularly concerned about that. We are far more concerned with why we're there not winning. I think, though,
No, it's not about not winning. We don't give a shit about whether we're bombing Kharg Island like this is Call of Duty or something. We give a shit about going home. Americans are dead. We've spent $100 billion on this war for nothing. Even if we had won, it wouldn't have made a damn of a difference to a single American citizen. Not one goddamn thing. Nobody living in Birmingham, Alabama is any safer if there's civil war in Iran because we crushed the regime and now it crumbles into this 11 different factions of a state all warring with each other, creating an immigration crisis, which when the next Democrat president comes in, we'll have to take 10 million of those people. I think it would actually be worse. If we laid out our goals of regime change and actually succeeded, the world would be worse off. Okay, so no, Americans aren't craving victory. We don't need 1 billion more immigrants coming from the Middle East. We need to go the fuck home.
actually ought to do is say an eye for everything. Like you touch a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, and we kill the head of the IRGC, we kill Khalibaf, we kill your entire leadership class. Again, we destroy South Pars and we destroy Kharg. One drone, and that's what happens. That is the way you win in the Middle East. By the way, that's the way you win generally.
Oh, okay. So right. So one drone, you attack us one time, and it's not just an eye for an eye. Then we just wage total war on you. Okay. Interesting, because this was a war of aggression. So we fired the first shot here. The first day we ended up dropping a bomb on a girls' school, killed over 100 children. And we just kind of yada past that, whatever. But when the Iranians send a drone at a ship, which is wrong, of course, you shouldn't bomb an oil tanker because you're, from the Netherlands because you're mad at the United States. But why all of a sudden is that a reason for us to wage total war against a country we should never be at war with to begin with? So Ben Shapiro is just trying to set up a situation here where he can get what he already wants. He already wants this war to escalate. He already wants this to be a total war where everything the United States does is meant to overthrow the regime so that Israel can be safer. That's what Ben Shapiro wants. He won't say it. That's what he's getting at here. That's the only reason you would want a total war against Iran, because America has no way to benefit from it. Nothing we do there is going to help us. Even if we won and we got control of some of their oil reserves or something so we could lower gas prices, even let's say we were even able to lower them past what was the average gas price before the war. So we were able to get 30 cents off or something. It wouldn't be worth the $100 billion we spent to do this war. The whole thing's nuts. We're gaining nothing here. Not a single thing. We're not at risk from Iran attacking us here in America. We're not going to be any safer after this war than we were before it. Ben Shapiro just wants us to overthrow Iran so that Israel doesn't have to fight him anymore. And that's what the Israeli finance minister said, Smotrich. He said, the status quo of the United States fighting Iran is good for us. I don't think we need to change that. And that's a crazy thing to say out loud because it's true. We are fighting their war for them. And it is better for them that it's that way. The problem is that the American politicians are supposed to look out for us, agree with him. They agree with Ben Shapiro. They agree with Smotrich that we should be fighting Israel's war for them. And we are fighting their war for them. Clearly. So it seems like Ben Shapiro is completely in lockstep with Congress. He's completely in lockstep with Donald Trump, who's completely in lockstep with the Israeli government. Nowhere near the opinion of the public. The people don't want this. I don't know anybody, left or right, that is standing up and saying, yeah, this is my version of America first. Unless there's some kind of neocon who was also for like the war in Iraq and Libya and Syria and all the crazy shit that we did there. Those people have been completely discredited. Those are the only people that are for this. They're the 30% or something that still support this war, or they're just the Trump fanatics who will support him no matter what. But it's sad. It kind of hurts because Ben Shapiro is one of the guys that I grew up watching, the leftist tears, liberal tears, the mug, all that facts don't care about your feelings, blah, blah, blah. It's tough to see him go down this route, actually. It hurts, but he's wrong, so we got to call him out. There was one other shitty thing that Donald Trump had did, which Ben Shapiro used to play the game, good Trump, bad Trump. It's been a lot of bad Trump in his second term. But man, he posted on Twitter the other day. Actually, it was today that I saw it. I think he posted it on Truth Social and then it made its way over to Twitter. I'm sure he didn't make this graphic and do this ranking. It's just not something Donald Trump would do. We know Donald Trump, he doesn't sit around with ChatGPT making fun graphics to throw on Twitter. The one-liners, the insults, that's all him. There's some intern that posted this shit, and it's crazy. I don't know where they came up with it. Whoever did this should be fired immediately. I mean, check this out. He posts this, and I don't know if this is good enough quality for you guys to see, but it's this list of the presidents ranked, and of course, he's got himself at the top greatest. Okay. But he's got FDR at great. He's got Woodrow Wilson, the worst president of all time. In American history, Woodrow Wilson is the absolute worst. He created the deep state. He lied to get elected, saying he wasn't going to take us into World War I. Took us into World War I anyways, one of the most pointless wars of all time. 100,000 Americans end up dying over there in Europe during World War I. The guy, he was just your quintessential academic, creepy, deep state bureaucrat. The worst. We can thank him for like all of the parts of the federal government that are the absolutely worst these days. FDR, just about no better. He got us in. Some people say that FDR knew Pearl Harbor was coming. I don't think that means we shouldn't have gone to war with Japan, even if we did know it was coming. But the conspiracy is that FDR had intelligence that the Japanese were going to strike. He took the aircraft carriers out of Pearl Harbor, left the battleships there. When they were attacked, he then used it as the casus belli to then go to war with Japan, and then, of course, Hitler would declare war the next day. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I don't think it matters that much. I think we end up in World War II anyways. But he then, American citizens, he interned the Japanese descent here, puts them all in prison camps. One of the biggest constitutional violations since slavery. And we celebrate him for some reason. He joins the war on the side of Joseph Stalin, one of the most evil people to ever live. Because we side with Stalin and Stalin ends up conquering half of Europe, we then sentence, generations of Eastern Europeans to living under communism. It's completely destroyed their countries. You still can't go to those Eastern Bloc countries without clearly noticing that they were ravaged by something, that something being communism and Soviet occupation. He sentenced a lot of people to some really, really miserable lives in his time. And then, of course, the New Deal was an economic disaster and one of the worst recoveries we've ever had. The Great Depression wouldn't have been the Great Depression had we not had FDR and his big government policies trying to dig us out of the hole. He was truly a terrible president. And then, okay, let's keep going. He's got Roosevelt in the near great. Roosevelt belongs in the top tier. I'm sorry. I know that's controversial. People call him the first liberal and all that stuff. If you love public land, you love Teddy Roosevelt. If you hate giant corporations, the big trusts, you got to love Teddy Roosevelt. He was the last president to really stand up to these big corporations that are just near government. I want to say monopolies, but that doesn't even really cover it. They're monopolies, but they work so hand in hand with the government that they're like quasi-government organizations. For example, Facebook and Twitter, when we were under the Biden administration and they were just censoring people at the behest of the government. That's what I'm talking about here. If you hate shit like that, okay, you gotta love Teddy Roosevelt. Andrew Jackson's up where he belongs. Clinton, yeah, whatever. Let's look at who else we've got here. Okay, he put Ulysses S. Grant down as a failure. Ulysses S. Grant is one of the greatest Americans to ever live. Sorry. I mean, his victories for the Union kept the country together. Lincoln gets all the credit for keeping the Union together. Grant deserves a ton of that credit. And I know that wasn't when he was president, but even his presidencies weren't that bad. He doesn't deserve the title of failure. Just completely wrong. Whoever put this together just like had never even opened a history book. What do we got? Yeah, okay. I mean, I could keep Polk at the near great. Fine. Jimmy Carter, Obama, and Biden, yeah, they sucked. Fine. Harding, I don't know what his beef with Harding is. Honestly, I haven't read all. Oh, yeah, here we go. Here's one of the worst ones. Below average, he's got James Buchanan ranked. President Buchanan was the president right before President Lincoln. And so, if you guys don't know, President Lincoln gets elected in November of, it's either 1859 or 1860. And he's not inaugurated until the spring of the next year. I think he's inaugurated in March. And the states, South Carolina and some of the other southern states, secede after Lincoln's election, but before he's inaugurated as president. So the Civil War has started before Lincoln even is sworn into office. It didn't collapse under Lincoln. He inherited this whole mess, and that whole mess came from Buchanan. He was a weak president. He was a weirdo. He was pro-slavery. He was just, I mean, he just hid under his desk the whole time. He let the whole Union slip into civil war. Most historians regard him as the worst president in history. Even people that say Wilson's the worst, like me, could put Buchanan as number 2. I mean, when you let the country slip into civil war, I think you deserve worse than just below average, man. And just the irony of having Grant below Buchanan. Grant reunites the Union that Buchanan let split apart. But Buchanan's ranked above Grant. Okay, whatever. Fire your fucking intern, Trump. Jesus goddamn Christ. This is an embarrassment. Delete this. I mean, it's like it's random. I think it actually would have been better if he'd have just done it randomly. And he could still throw himself at the top. Whatever. But then do the rest randomly, it would end up better than it is now. I mean, man. Stop letting the interns run wild with your X account, man. All right, that's it. That is an episode. See you guys.